What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another Battlefield 6 gun guide. In today's episode, we're going to be diving deep into the stats of the M123K LMG, and toward the end of the video, I'm going to be sharing some excellent attachment combinations to try out. And starting it off, as always, let's get into our raw power potential, and this gun has the fastest rate of fire in the LMG category at 830 rounds per minute, and it's going to be a 4 to 6 shot kill depending on your range. And what this means for our time to kill potential is up close with a 4-shot kill, we're killing in 217 milliseconds, which is a great time to kill in this game. It may not be the fastest in the entire category or anything, but this is a very solid time to kill. As for headshots with standard ammo, it's going to require 3 headshots at any range to reduce the number of shots to kill, or if you use hollow point ammo, that will cut it down to just 2 headshots being required at any range to reduce the number of shots to kill. And if you manage to get that 3-shot kill in the maximum damage range by mixing 2 or 3 headshots in, we're now killing in just 145 milliseconds, which is a crazy fast time to kill value. As for ranges, we've got a very standard range profile for the LMGs. The first damage drop occurs at 21.25 meters, and that's where it'll drop off to a 5-shot kill, and then it will drop off to that 6-shot kill at 75 meters. And it is quite interesting. Something I thought I'd point out here is this is basically just the LMG version of the M433 assault rifle, because it's got the exact same rate of fire, exact same damage profile, and the exact same range profile as that gun. It just comes in LMG form. And funny enough, when it comes to our bullet velocity, this is also the same as the M433, although for an LMG, it's not too great at 670 meters per second. Realistically though, as long as you're not challenging like extreme range gunfights, 670 milliseconds tends to be just fine. But then moving on to hipfire, as expected, we have standard LMG hipfire with this gun, meaning the hipfire spreads themselves aren't great. However, since this does have a very fast fire rate, as far as LMGs go, this does tend to do better than the others, and you can build in that direction. If you are stacking attachments that help with hipfire, this gun can actually be quite solid in the hipfire department. Now after that, let's get into the big downside with this gun, and this is recoil. As you can see here, the recoil is quite sporadic on this. Especially after the initial rounds fired, there's a lot of horizontal like zigzagging back and forth. And there's also a fair amount of spread that comes into the equation as you continue firing relative to some of the other LMGs. So that's absolutely a big factor to consider while using this. It's not going to be your best bet at like hanging back at long distances and picking people off at extreme ranges. Although I do want to point out, of course, with the right attachment combination and with controlled tap firing, you can definitely get by at long ranges. It's just not an area where I'd say this gun excels relative to the other LMGs. Now, after that, let's get into our handling stats, and as you can see here, across the board, it's a pretty standard LMG. We've got quite a slow base aim down sight time at 433 milliseconds. Same thing with our sprint to fire time, it is on the slow side with it being an LMG. One big thing to point out is we do get a 100 round mag by default. We don't have to spend a bunch of attachment points to get there like you will on many of the LMGs, so that is one nice thing that many people will like. However, there is a clear downside attached to that, and that is we have quite a slow reload time here at 6.65 seconds. So you will have to plan those reloads out accordingly, and with this having quite a fast fire rate as well, you can actually burn through those 100 round mags surprisingly fast, so it's something you will have to actively plan out with your gameplay. But at the same time, it's really nice when you run into a big group of enemies, knowing that as long as you had them full mag to begin with, you can often spray and pray and take out quite a few of them before running out. Now finally, for the base stats of this gun, when it comes to our mobility stats, it's just standard for an LMG in this game, and that means we do have a slower sprint speed and quite a slow aim walking speed. However, just like with the other LMGs, if you pair this with the support class, you will get the weapon proficiency that boosts your sprint speed up to the normal value so it matches all of the other weapon categories in the game. And there we go, that wraps it up for all of the important multiplayer stats. However, I did want to take a brief look at REDSEC, and in REDSEC, against 2 armor plates, this gun is going to be an 8 to 11 shot kill depending on your range, giving us a potential time to kill up close at 506 milliseconds, which is an awesome time to kill. And when you factor in the great magazine capacity you have on this, that actually makes for a really nice close to mid-range LMG for REDSEC. Of course, the one big problem with this is it's not going to be as accurate as many of the other LMGs or many of the other guns in this game, so that will limit your potential when you get out to the really long ranges. But yeah, close to mid ranges, this gun will definitely excel in REDSEC. And with all of that covered, we can now finally get into some excellent attachment combinations, and the first one I wanted to share is my preferred build that really suits my more aggressive playstyle. Which honestly, if you are going to be using an LMG, this one is an excellent option for playing fairly aggressively. And with this build, I'm using the Mini Flex Optic. I've got the 50 milliwatt blue laser on this for a couple reasons. First off, it nicely tightens up my hip fire spread, so I can hip fire in close quarters engagements. Obviously not as accurately as like an SMG for instance, but it at least makes it more viable with hip fire up close. But then on top of that, with the blue laser, this gives me better aim down sight spread while moving. Then for my muzzle, I'm using the long suppressor on this to help bring that recoil down a little bit, while also keeping me off the radar for some people. Then for my barrel, I have the heavy extended barrel on this, which reduces spread overall and improves my muzzle velocity up to 830 meters per second. And that just adds a little bit of extra versatility to this build, so I can still take longer range fights if needed, even if I am generally trying to play more up close and aggressive. For my underbarrel, I've got the full angled grip. That's going to help slightly with recoil, but it also helps with weapon draw time and my aim down sight time. That brings it down to 367 milliseconds, which is still a bit slow, but it's at least more reasonable than the base aim down sight speed. And then finally, I'm just topping this off with the standard 100 round mag and the standard ammunition. And overall, I managed to find plenty of success with this build. It does suit my playstyle quite nicely. However, of course, if you are trying to take those longer range fights, while it's not totally useless, I will admit you'll often be outgunned by many other guns in the game. So that's where my second build comes in. This is my more accurate long range build. And with this one, I'm using the ROM 1.75 optic, the 50 milliwatt violet laser. So that's going to be helping with that aim down sight spread while moving. We've got the flash comp on here as well to bring that recoil down a bit without costing as much as the suppressors that do the same. Then we once again have that heavy extended barrel. This one especially helps for a build like this where you're trying to stretch your ranges out a little bit more. Then for my underbarrel, I've got the canted stubby, and this is going to be helping quite a bit with recoil while also making sure our aim down sight time stays reasonable at 367 milliseconds. Then for my magazine, we just have that standard 100 round mag. And then finally, we're topping this one off with hollow point. And this just means we now only need those 2 headshots rather than 3 mixed in with body shots in order to reduce the number of shots to kill. And that can definitely help in situations with this where you have somebody posted up on a piece of cover and all you can really see is their head. And there we have it. That's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide on the M123K. And when it comes to my thoughts on this gun, I honestly should have gotten on top of this one a little bit sooner. I know I've been putting off some of these gun guides for quite some time now. I have almost all of them wrapped up, but this is one of the last couple LMGs to cover. And I wish I would have covered it sooner because this suits my playstyle quite nicely. However, it's also important to acknowledge the recoil on this is a big limiting factor, and it does remove a lot of the versatility from this gun that many of the other LMGs have, where they can handle themselves really nicely up close like this one can, but they can also excel at longer ranges, whereas this one doesn't really do that in my experience and based on the stats. So I do like this LMG, but it does lack some versatility, and I wouldn't call it like the best all around or anything. Now, of course, those are just my opinions, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about the M123K in those comments down below. And if you guys have missed any of the previous gun guides, I will leave a link to the playlist in the description down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.